So I'll
Oh, thank you.
Hi Tara.
Hi.
I'm showing everyone my lovely jumper.
Oh,
This
brilliant.
is cashmere jumper, but look, so it's got these big holes right down the front. So what I was going to do is get my darning mushroom and put it over underneath. Yeah, they're just by the pot there, and put it around here and then tie it with a bit of elastic. So you'll find if you're in the studio that there are some short bits of elastic that I've put in the basket, especially. So you don't want your hole to distort too much, but you want to keep it fairly firm on your mushroom. And then I've got a long darner. So these are needles that I bought at Merchant and Mills, and they're particularly long. And I'm going to try doing some English darning, which is in this book on page 24, I think. And the idea with it is that you do running stitch from the side rather than seed stitch. So I might start about here and go in and out and just do running stitch right down the side. And I'll just leave a little tail. There we are. Yeah, there's a few in the basket, but I bet Kat's got loads more.
Yes. No. What's he looking for? Oh.
So what was the other type of stitch you referred to?
This is a running stitch.
Yeah, and the other?
A seed stitch is more like a back stitch where you go, it looks like a little tiny seed on the surface, hence the name, but it gives a different image on the front and the back. So because this where I'm mending is on a collar, you're going to see both sides of it. So when you're wearing a sock, you don't see both sides. You only see the front, obviously. And if you do seed stitch, you get more extra fabric on the reverse, so it gives it more strength. Whereas what I'm doing is running stitch, but it's then reversible, so it'll look the same, or it'll look okay on both sides. And I think in Steiner world, Nikki, they call it the dolphin stitch, don't they?
I believe they do, yeah.
It goes
yes.
In and out and in and out. I mean, it's like...
It took me a while to work out that's what they meant. Running stitch is what I mean.
Yeah, no,
how do you make a seed stitch?
So I can show you. So if you're doing a sock, so whereas a running stitch just goes in and out, a seed stitch, you go one step forwards and then you go back.
Or go back on yourself. And
so you go back and then you go 2 steps forward.
Yeah.
Like that.
Affect the flexibility of the yarn. I mean, the thing, if you have running stitches, you can still pull it, whereas with the seed stitch,
it's more locked, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, yes, it might make it a bit firmer. So when I get to the hole, I'm just going to go straight over the top of the hole.
But you would do seed stitch if it was not going to be reversible.
If you didn't want it to be reversible and it needed to have more strength, like on the heel of a sock, I would do seed stitch. And then it has more extra yarn, so that you're giving it a bit more. So here I'm going to carry on doing running stitch, and where I can, I shall do it in brick fashion, if you know what I mean, so that instead of the stitches lining up, they'll actually be slightly syncopated, as it were.
And that is done by eye. Is that right? It's not something that you sort
No,
of,
it's not
it is sort of
precise. No, I
roughly
just
out of sync.
none of this is a right or wrong way of doing it. It's just every hole is different, so you have to moderate what you do just to be.
What's this this one used for particular? Has it got its kind of virtues like the other one for, you know, elbows or inside or reinforcement? Is this one good for like spanning big holes especially, or just
It's well, it's particularly good for doing both sides, so it's reversible. And the other difference with the running stitch that Susan pointed out is that it may be more flexible, so it's a bit more stretchy. So the bit that I'm doing it on is on a rib, and it's on a collar, from a shawl collar, so it's going to be visible from both sides. So here we are. Look, I'm just going to keep going along.
So in some ways, this is what I call you make the warp.
Yeah, so I'm making the warp here over the front here, and actually I kind of want those to be a little bit closer together than I've managed to do it. But this is quite a chunky knit, so if you were doing it on a much finer gauge jumper, I think I'd put these strands much closer together. And then come back the other way. And I've cut quite a relatively short piece in this colour because I've got some other colours that I want to use. So I've got some other colours here that I'm going to use, and this one as well, which I've chosen to go with this sort of pinky colour. And I think when this thread runs out, I'm going to change colour rather than, it's a bad idea to have a really long piece of yarn because every time you pull it through, it gradually frays a little bit more. So short pieces is good with wool, particularly. Short, well, about a metre or less.
Oh wow! I did this and wished I'd done it shorter.
Yeah, that's a bit too long,
Yeah.
I'd say. Yeah.
50 centimetres now.
Oh, there's somebody else here. Who's that? Imogen. Hello, Imogen.
Hello, Imogen.
Hi, we can't hear you because you've got your mute on. I'm Katie. I know it says Cat there, but it's not Cat, it's Katie.
Oh, hello, Katie. I had my mute on because David's just mixing up the bread. So
I'll be 4 minutes.
yeah, he'll be 4 minutes. So I'll turn off for a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to hear the mixing. It'll make us all hungry. So I'm just weaving in and out, and it's quite good having this quite a long needle because it means that you can keep going. And there, where you get to the hole, you just leap over, go the other side.
Whereabouts can we buy these things at the moment? Is So and So still around?
It is, but it'll be closed
Yeah.
tomorrow because I think it's a non-essential shop. But you can certainly order things.
But if we want to do it local, haberdashery twist us on Instagram. You can go and you have
Oh, click and collect.
click and collect. I don't know how you click exactly, but
Oh, yeah.
you
So
can go to them and say, and they have lots of merchant mills.
oh, good.
So
Yeah.
Who's that? Because yeah, I'd rather do something local for that, or I'd have to wait a bit. But
Do you know Haberdashery Twist, where Trudy is on the high street? It's the one where they have all the flowers outside. That looks quite jolly.
okay, yeah. Have they got other thing? Is it just haberdashery? Yeah. Is it lots of fabric as well in there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I haven't gone into Stroud.
bits
Gone into Stroud for a long time. Yeah.
Wow. Whereabouts are you, Imogen, normally? Where do you live?
White way, yeah.
I'm up at Whiteway.
Okay. I think, Bob, you should have a go. So if you and then you can ask questions as we go along, and
Yeah, I'm going to try and find. I'm going to pop off and try and find something that works as a mushroom better than the grapefruit this time, because I've got a nice jumper for this as well.
A glass.
I want to do this because it was this one, wasn't it? Can I just show? I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing at, but where I am. I did this one in. Ooh. Oh no, that's a bit extra bright. No, it's too bright. Sorry, spotlight. I did this darn
oh yeah, that's lovely.
over several things last time. See, but I didn't find out what to do with the ends anyway. But it's the same one we're doing. It's this one, isn't it? It is the same thing. It's the walk
They're
and the way.
similar. So there are two different ones that look the same, Tara. There's the seed and square. So
Yeah.
the square bit is the same, but
Yeah.
this stitch that I'm doing is a running stitch instead of a seed stitch because it's reversible, and I'm doing it on a collar so that you may see the other side.
Oh, okay. So even though we were all saying we like the reverse side, that's the running stitch. Then it just gives you a different pattern, does it? Sometimes, sorry, it's not
Can't
easy.
quite see.
Yeah,
That's the seed stitch. You get the long ends on the back and the very short seedy bits on.
And it still even looks quite nice sometimes in certain situations.
Yeah, and that looks great. On this one, well, I had to demonstrate something, so I'm demonstrating this one today.
Yes, yeah. I was just checking if it was that one, but I'd forgotten that. Yes, this one, that's why it looks so different on the back. But you can even.
I don't know about you, Katie, but I feel I've tried a few different versions where I've tried to do, if it's not reversible, I have now decided that I'd like to do it on the back side because that's what I'm darning, and then it looks better basically on the other side. Yeah.
So I've got this scarf that was mended for me, which is designed by and mended by the author of the book, and this bit here is an English darn with the running stitch, and you can see on this side it looks very similar on this side.
Yeah.
Whereas the I bet I've got some seed stitch here as well, which will look a bit. So this one is a square where the woven traditional technique, but on the back it looks like that.
Yeah.
So you can still see the hole quite visibly.
Yes.
So it's a slightly different technique. And in this one, apparently she says that it's the English technique it's not like this. You actually work into the fabric. So you weave in and out of this bit as well to make it become more matted.
Yeah.
So this is the seed stitch.
Yeah.
With the little, looks like sesame seeds apparently. But on the back, it looks like this.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is great on a sock because then you've got all this extra reinforcement.
Elbows and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's various other ones here. So this is like a buttonhole stitch, but done round and round. This one's done as a chain stitch, which is fun. And gosh, there are hundreds in here.
Lovely, your demonstration scarf.
Well, it is my demonstration scarf. And this is another one. So this is a seed and square. Don't know if you can see that.
No. Would you make it bigger?
I think so.
Here we
just
go.
A little bit pixelated, so yeah.
This is the seed stitch. I'll pass it around the studio. But on the back, it looks like this. So it's quite different.
Yeah.
And And it's just because where my one on this jumper is going to be that I'm fixing, I want it to look nice on the other side as well. So I'm going to do it more with this other English tenny. So I'm just going to pass this around so you guys can have a look at the different. Right.
Katie, I've got a sort of round hole, and I've realised that I have made my warp threads fit around the round hole rather than being a square. Does that matter?
No.
Good.
I would say.
That's a great answer. I like that answer.
I don't think any of it matters terribly.
Well, I suppose I was just, yeah.
It all depends on what you would like it to look like. Because if you are looking, because some people look like when they do darning, they like to have this sort of crossover.
Yeah.
And obviously, you will get that crossover if you have done it all the way on the edge. But sometimes it feels like it's nice to sort of lock the edge because you feel like it's slightly running if it's very loosely woven stuff.
What happened to the sample that you're doing now? Did you cut away some of the original item, or did it suffer some great trauma that the bits went missing?
It's been eaten.
Been eaten.
By
Yes.
applying you know what.
Oh, one of them, yeah.
By one of those unmentionables. It's since been in the freezer and been washed and all that. And then in the freezer again, and then in a plastic bag. And, yeah, etc. But some things don't survive that process, but because this was a special, because it's cashmere and it's really yummy, I wanted to try and save it. So I just had to have a little delay there whilst I changed colour. And I'm just changing colour, not with any, I've chosen some 3 or 4 colours together, which may or may not be successful. I don't know until I've done it. But,
so the tail on that, which you leave hanging, the short tail, if that's what it's called, do you just overstitch that at the end? Or?
I'll work it in or to the other side. On some jumpers, you can just leave it if you like them loose, or you can, if you put them through to the other side, they may just mat into the knit when it's washed, especially. They'll just get worn into the fabric so that they'll.
So the fact that it's actually loose is neither here nor there. Doesn't matter.
No, I don't want it to be. So it's got quite a long bit here. It would be sensible to do like an overstitch at the beginning to stop it like one stitch in the wrong direction so that it doesn't just come unraveled.
Okay.
But what you can do is just thread it into a needle and then just pull it through like that and just pull it into the work. And what I normally do is oh look what I've done now, got myself stuck. What I normally do is to do it with a crochet hook at the end. I just pull the bits in.
Will you demonstrate that today?
Yeah, if you like.
Yeah.
So I've got, is there a little crochet hook in that basket there? There should be.
Why, they all have one somewhere?
Yeah, just quite a small one.
And the nice thing with wool, if it's wool you're darning, is that it actually sort of locks itself quite well.
Yeah, little tiny ones, great.
Yeah.
It does what? It sort of locks, because it has all these sort of, it's sort of fluffy, almost regardless of what kind of wool it is. When you sew back into it, it locks itself and you can almost do it a bit like this and then it's sort of locked the small ends and then you can cut it off really closely to you. And it's very rarely that's where it goes wrong. That's not the one that will run up. It's where you wear it again and breaks the wool.
Okay, so we've had an intelligent question about what we do with the ends. So let me just get rid of the working yarn. So here I've got some ends, and what I'd normally do is just right at the end, but I've got a small crochet hook. Can you see it's really quite tiny? And I'm going to thread it through from a bit further away, and then pull it up, hook the yarn, and then just pull it in like that. So it's on the other side now. Look. And then if you've got another little bit there, you can just snip that off.
I wondered if we'd come to that.
So because I want this to look the same on both sides, I'm just going to weave that bit in there. So it's going to go in and out and in and out a bit. Okay. And then I can just snip off the little bits at the end. Like that.
And it won't work loose if it's just fixed like that.
Well,
or doesn't it matter?
It shouldn't do, particularly because it's wool. It tends to mat a bit. Okay. So if you look at the jumper that you're wearing, and you tried to, if you had a loose stitch there and you tried to pull it, it probably wouldn't come away because it kind of felts a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, right. So I'm still going across and doing my warp, quite a big hole.
So the direction in which you're working at the moment, is that determined by anything other than choice?
Well, actually, I did it this way, partly because this is the way that the stitches are running. And there were some loose stitches along here. So as I've gone along on this edge, I've tried to put my needle into where the stitches are so that I can catch them so they don't unravel anymore. So look, there's one. I don't know if you can see that if I hook it with the needle. There's actually a stitch there. So what I want to do is when I go there, look, I'm going to actually put my needle right through the middle of it. So I've caught that stitch. So that's not going to unravel anymore. So yeah, I'm going in the direction of the stitches. And if you're on a woven fabric, you know, you probably want to do it in the direction of the rest of the weaving. So when I get to the edge of the hole, I'm just going to carry on for another row or so down the side here. Well, I'm doing that thing that my mother does, which is to hum. I always used to find that a bit distressing that she did that. Not any particular song, it's just a sort of...
It's not a darning song.
It's just a mumble. There we are. Well, I've run out of that yarn, so I'm going to stop there. there, and I don't want this to be too.
So did you do anything different there at all? I sort of saw you tying in, did I?
Well, what I was doing here was to pick up the stitches as I went, but because nobody asked me about it, I didn't think to mention it. So there you go. So you spotted that. So here, I did a bit, and then I've done it some more rows to keep going down the side. And now I'm going to turn the whole thing round and do the same thing, but going in this direction. So I'll get another bit of wool. Right, so when I'm going to start going the other way, and I'm going to start just beyond the edge of, so not right here, but just sort of maybe a row before the hole. And I'll start here. And probably what I'll do at the beginning is just do one stitch like backwards, and then that'll secure the yarn. So I think probably the I'm all caught up. The length of the stitches on this jumper are being dictated by the size of the stitches in the jumper, if you see what I mean. So if it's quite a chunky knit, but if I had a much finer sweater, I think I'd have to have much smaller. So when I get to the end of the row, I'll just do one stitch sideways and then start down backwards again. And now I'm going to start trying to go over and under the warp threads as I come to them, because it's a jagged hole. And where there are bits of the dark grey of the actual sweater, I'm actually going to go right through the middle of them. So in the other seed technique, you don't really do that. You tend to sort of gloss over them. But here I'm going to work right through them, and it means that the finished thing isn't quite so neat, but it will be much more durable, and the grey and the colours will be blended in together a bit more.
So it's called the warp because it's the first set of threads that go down, as it were?
Yeah, it's just like weaving. So, you know, you have your warp.
That doesn't mean anything to me.
Well, when you set up a loom, is there one knocking around?
There's one knocking around, but probably not with anything on. So
you have threads going in one direction, and then the other threads go at right angles and in and out. And the long threads are called the warp, and the other one's called the weft. So what I'm doing now is the in and out bit that you would do with a shuttle on a loom. And I'm going to start going over and under here. So I went over that one last time, so I'll go under and over and under and over like that. Now I'm noticed already that I've got two overs next to each other. And do you know what? I don't think it matters too much. But I'm going to try and keep it so that...
It's a little bit annoying when you suddenly find out you're out of sync.
Yeah, you can get out of sync. And look here, I've got a slightly bigger gap there. And I'm going to try and see if it's a problem. But I can always go back and put another warp in if I want to, if I've, you know, miscalculated.
And does it matter?
No, none of it matters, Bob. As long as the what does matter is that you're pleased enough and it fixes it so that you can wear it without embarrassing yourself by having a bloody great hole. Okay, so now I'm going to go under, over, under, over, under. And this is where having a longer needle really helps, because you can do a whole row at once. And then I'm just going to push it down a bit like that to keep it, the lines together. Oh, and this is the bit where I've got 2 overs and an under next to each other. And then I'll just carry on going over and under when I finish the hole into the, as the running stitches down the side.
So are you going over and under thread by thread, or when you say 2, it's just that you don't rectify that, do you?
Well, it's a mistake. So in theory, you're going over one and under the next.
And sometimes I have gone where I go to under 2 instead. There's not really much to do about it other than you can then try to rectify it in the next round.
But once you've done it under 2, is it repeated every time you
can
go?
Decide not to do that, and you can decide to sort of.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, sometimes I get like, I try to cheat out and find another string somehow and put in, but it is. I mean, you're not going to see it as such.
Well, I don't know. The darning police will come around and get you.
That's right, and they do come out at the same time as the lockdown.
Do they? Yeah, yeah. They come around with little.
Around, yeah.
Right.
The teachers they'll come out and check you.
Okay. Okay.
My mum would unpick a whole sweater if she noticed she did one thing wrong.
Oh no!
I just saw her today. Her sweater I've been knitting with some very obvious mistakes, and thought, well, I was learning, and I won't do it again. But I'm not going to.
I know. That's such a personality thing, because I'm like that. I won't. I just think, well, I know it's there, but nobody else will knit.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Well, I mean, she says for the same reason. I know it's there, therefore I have to.
Yeah.
In Islamic traditions, for carpet weavers used to put in, and they may still do, a deliberate mistake in their work.
Yeah.
because they believe that only Allah can make things perfect.
That's the same thing in English kind of sampler type of cross stitch.
Really?
Yeah, those who are aficionados of that school, again, will put in a mistake because only God is perfect.
Oh, okay. Good.
But I'm sorry, but it does say something about that you have to put in a mistake, because otherwise it would have been perfect.
I'm not really going to debate the rights and wrongs of it.
Oh, come on. Come on.
Well, because I don't necessarily agree with it myself.
Well, suffice to say that when I went over to, that was my deliberate mistake that I was putting in, because there you are. So that's my get out of jail card.
Good.
In Japanese, I was just talking about that. Someone else brought up the example of the
low battery.
The thing, but in Japanese craftsmanship, and I always want to call it wasabi, but it sounds a bit like wasabi, but it's about a kind of intrinsic.
It's wabi sabi. It's called
wabi sabi, yeah, like a knot in the wood, or a yeah.
What is wabi? What is wabi sabi?
It's wabi sabi is the art of the joyful mistake.
Oh, I see.
Similar.
Yeah.
Different, but
so same kind of thing. So now I'm changing to a completely different colour to see, just to give this a bit of interest. While Kat plugs the computer in, because it
won't die,
so it doesn't die. Which was nice. So I'm starting a new colour. I'm just going to do a stitch backwards.
Just to tie in the thread? Yes,
just so it doesn't run off and unwrap itself. They just got lines at their end.
So are you going to be doing this? Oh well, we've only got a month, haven't we? But are you going to be doing it on Zoom?
We are, aren't we? We're going to do it next time if we won't. I'm not locked out. Or
well, if it's the next one is at the beginning of, it's the first Wednesday of the month, so we might be out of lockdown by then. But if it's still lockdown or lockdown gets extended, heaven forbid, we'll be doing this by Zoom, and it'll be nice to see you all as Zoomies. And if you've got any other kinds of darning from the book that you couldn't get your head around that you would like demonstrated, we can.
Well, this is brilliant, Katie, because actually the English darn was something somehow I hadn't quite got my head around it. And I don't know why, because now it seems really simple.
Well, I hadn't either, and I think it was something a bit like this that I was taught to do, you know, when I was a kid. But we always used to do that thing where you do a running stitch around the outside of the hole as well to stop it being misshapen. So if it was a very ragged hole, you would do a little running stitch around the outside first.
Oh, right. Okay.
But
would you not still do that if it's a very loose, if you have a sort of a feeling, for instance, if it was linen, knit or something else, you know, that's sort of,
and it's stretched and frayed. Yeah, I think I would. Yeah,
does sort of hold itself together in a comfortable way.
I don't know. It's I think when you're first learning, you just do what you're told, don't you? You don't. Yeah. But I just make it up as I'm going along now. Well, I think it's probably like we have things like the French have broderie anglaise, which apparently in England they thought was a French thing. I mean, I never had an English muffin until I went to America. So, I mean, it's just in other countries.
Yeah,
they
and it's like
Danish
pastries called Vienna bread in Denmark.
Oh, Danish pastries aren't really a thing in Denmark.
But it's called Vienna bread.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It's interesting that the Japanese also use mushrooms as opposed to the American eggs, which was a subject of some controversy at home.
We had quite a good, it's just you and me who are in that WhatsApp group. We have a Middle Street WhatsApp group, and it was put out sort of a, what do you call it, call out for a darning egg initially.
Yes.
And then there was even small videos where they were shown, this is the one I have. And,
oh.
Yeah.
So you had mushroom one-upmanship.
Yeah, it was a bit. Yeah.
Well, I think the thing that Hikaru told me is that in Japan, they don't really have any mending at all. And the reason why her book was so popular in Japan is because mending just isn't a thing there.
What about the boro and
yeah, well, there's the old traditions of the wabi-sabi and the boro and stuff, but those were things that poor people did, and not things that you do if you're an affluent owner of a yarn store or whatever.
There are two things, aren't there, with the egg? That firstly, you can't really tie with the egg in the same way that you did with the mushroom there, because you've got a natural tying point.
You don't have to tie it on. It's just.
No, but I can understand why you did it. It makes sense to me.
It just means I can put it down and then it doesn't ping off.
The other advantage of the mushroom is it stops you sticking the needle in your hand. I believe. I mean, that's
or sewing two edges of the leg of your trousers together.
Yeah, no, done that.
It doesn't really work.
Have you done that?
I'm not speaking from painful experience. It wasn't too painful.
But this is my mother's darning egg. It's a piece of serpentine.
Oh, isn't it beautiful?
And she used that, and she'd put that inside a sock and darn the heels on the toes, and it was ideal. It couldn't go anywhere.
That's gorgeous.
right.
It didn't ever need fixing. You know, it was securing. I didn't know that you would that securing your work onto the mushroom was something that was a good idea to do.
It's something I'd never done it before until Hikaru, the author, showed me
Oh, okay.
what she does. And actually, I did it today because I'm demonstrating. I wanted this to stay put.
Yes.
But you know what? If I was at home, I probably wouldn't bother.
Yeah. Okay.
There's lots of things you do when you're demonstrating.
Okay.
Now, that thread, I got to the end a bit too quickly. So actually, I'm going to use my crochet hook again, and come in and out like this, and do what I would have done with the needle, and try and pull it through like that, because I'm going in this direction. And when I get to a bit, so in the middle of the hole, it was actually two smaller holes, and there's a bit of the original sweater down through the middle. And I'm either, in bits of it, I'm using it as one of the bars to go over and under, or I can just go straight through the middle of it. And in that way, I mean, right through the middle of the fibre. And in that way, I'm sort of matting it in, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I tend to do is when I finish the whole garment with all the darns, then I will block it like you would a sweater when you've made it. So I'll wet it or wash it.
Right.
And then either steam press those little bits so that, and then they all become sort of part of the same bit of fabric, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Rather than looking like something that's just stuck on the top. There we are. So I got another whole bit of a row, and it's a bit gappy, so I'm just going to push those bits down so that it's, now I'm going to do another colour. What colour shall I do next? A bit more of the pink, I think.
I'm just catching up because I went off to find the right implements to do all of this. But I just show you what I'm working with now. I found an apple. It's really good.
You don't stick into it.
No, yeah, put into it. But it's a very fine. It's a jumper that's got a really fine thread and quite loose. So it's quite gappy.
Yeah,
it's a very thin thread. So I just be loose with it then, because it's got quite some gaps between the stitch.
Because if you have a really big hole, you could use a pineapple.
Yes, a pineapple might be a bit spiky.
So I'll just keep it loose.
To the practice.
Build your muscles.
I mean, it's similar to this one, where it's actually the good idea is that it goes onto the.
Yeah, quite. Is that much of an advantage, do you think?
Well, I was actually going to try it in a moment when I don't think it's. I don't know actually. Because I was suddenly thinking, wonder how it is to stick into it, because I feel I use the sort of the hardness to sort of.
Yeah.
So some people like those very short mushrooms that don't have such a long handle because they sit flat on the table, and you can get ones that have got a flat end and they just sit down, so you can put them, so you don't have to keep holding them on in your hand all the time.
Oh.
Which is just a thing, I don't know. I'm a bit stuck in my ways. I just use the same old one every time.
That's terrible.
I know, it's shocking, isn't it?
I'm quite keen to, I like to sort of say, I'm hoping for next in December, I'm going to demonstrate the speed weave.
Oh yes, I've got one somewhere.
I've ordered one from
What
Ukraine.
is the speed weave?
That is a little, have you got one, Emma?
Yeah, that's fun. That is like a loom.
Yeah.
You set it up as you would.
Yeah.
It's quite impressive. I mean, I've been looking at them for a long time, and now I couldn't find an old one, so I'm buying one quite expensively.
What size is it?
it's this size, and you basically have a place where you can sort of create your warp. And then it has sort of a little elastic so you can tie everything around it. And then it even has this little thing where it lifts up every second one. So you don't have to do like this. You can just push you shuttle through it, and then you walk it to the other side, and then you can do it again. And it's just very beautiful what they do.
It's good for making perfect squares.
Yeah.
So how big are these squares?
Well, it's another kind of fun.
Really
Quite
good,
small.
like here with a big hole.
And you can really play around with the weave. Suddenly you can make twill and herringbone and weird stuff
So,
like
do you know,
that.
I found one in the bottom of my mum's sewing
Did you?
box, and I didn't know what it was for years until I think Tom showed me what you did with it. And but there you go.
Who invented these things?
I think it's the speed weave is. I don't know what country do they come. Are they American?
I think they're American, yeah.
Oh, never heard of them.
Yeah, I mean, they're a thing. You can look them up, and
Yeah.
you can't get your hands on them because everybody has seen them.
Everybody wants them now.
But then there are some crafty people, whatever you call it, mostly from Russia and Ukraine, that actually produces them. You can buy them.
Oh, they're
on Etsy.
making them.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
brilliant.
I've ordered mine, but they come in end of November.
Oh, it's coming on us.
Right, Kat, about the back being better.
Yeah, I know. I've done it by mistake a few times. I thought, oh, I wish that had been on the other side.
Oh, what with the seed stitch?
Yeah, or just in general, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
It
Whatever you
always looks
do,
better
often
on-
looks better on the other side. Yeah.
That's a very lovely.
So that was what I was
You
telling
could
you
always do
about.
another bit over the top of it.
This
couldn't
was
you?
this old jumper,
Oh,
but luckily the holes aren't on this side or on the other side. They're not very big, so it's quite easy to do.
yeah, but actually looks really
I
nice.
like the
I like
seed
this.
stitch
I
on
like
that
this stitch.
actually.
Yes.
I do.
Yes. And
I think it's quite subtle against the heavy stripes, so it kind of looks interesting and different, but not quite sure what it is.
yeah, well,
I like
I mean, it's the kind of thing I would never have done, you know, doing it with different colours.
I know, but then when you do it, you go like, oh, this is really fun.
I can tell you that there are 4 places in Stroud that don't have any of these.
Have you been to all 4 by any chance?
I or people on my behalf have been. We tried in Gloucester with equal lack of success.
Really?
Well, I was trying to find some. I have a class. I have 2 classes of 9 students, so I need to get hold of 9 darning mushrooms. So I managed to land 2 on eBay quite cheaply, but the rest were far too expensive for our meagre school budget. So I went down the woodworking room and I said, look, you've got to have something that is domed, you know, and flat woodwork. Like, do you know Mark?
No, but I was just thinking, what's his face at old boys school?
Gavin.
Gavin does.
Yes. That's a point.
Yes, they at the nailsmith place they do, don't they?
Anyway, Mark has given me craft mallets, which are like mallets. The head of them are like this. They're huge things, really heavy, with a handle and a sort of flat and slightly domed top. They actually do the job, but they're pretty heavy to use. And the mushrooms
quite big as well, I assume, to squeeze.
Well, it's sort of like the diameter at the top is like this, and then they're about this thick. And I have 9 of them in racks on the side of my room. And then the master came and he said, what are you doing with those? I said, I'm beating the children. Discipline technique. He said,
Sorry,
"Fine,
Imogen."
carry on and swan down.
Could you not use a large wooden spoon? I mean, I know they're not exactly mushroom shaped, but they're slightly curved. They have a curved back.
That's a really good
That's an
idea.
interesting idea. I like that idea.
You wouldn't get into so much trouble with the head teacher.
Well, yes.
You can definitely beat a child with a wooden spoon.
Well, you could. But I just thought, they're cheap. You could get them easily.
Yes, they're much cheaper, wooden spoons.
I mean,
and not such a pain to carry around.
Yeah.
Or store.
Thank you. I like that idea, Imogen.
I mean, I just think that there's got to be a sort of an everyday item that can readily be got hold of.
I mean,
Yes, I think this is what we need, isn't it?
I mean, I use a glass very often at home. I just
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
This is not doing.
This apple is working really well, I have to say.
Yeah.
I can't get it to work.
So I can show you this little fella. I bought this on eBay because I'm like that. And it's got actually, I don't know if you can see, but it's got like a little wire teeth on the top. And the idea is that if you use it under your work, it's got a flat bottom so it can go, but then it holds, it's supposed to grip the knitting.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, do you know what? It's patent pending, but I don't know if it's going to catch on. But I thought I'd have one just to see what it was like.
But does it work well, or you keep sticking to your mushroom?
No, I'm sticking to the old one. With this, you can hold on to it. I've just, that's how I.
The way you do it, yeah.
Just the way I do.
Don't put it on the table, yeah.
Well, I suppose, you know, you might do if it was a much bigger and heavier thing.
Is there a secret to needle threading, or is that just something you acquire the ability to?
There is a secret.
Get somebody else to do it? No, sorry.
But it's all right. No, girls can do it. It's only boys who can't thread needles. So what I was shown is I'm reluctant to unthread this now because it just took me ages to do.
No, we're finished. Don't worry.
No. So what you do is that you, instead of trying to shove the end in there, which doesn't work, you fold over with the needle the top of the yarn. So you you kind of you fold it like that right in between my fingers. Can you see?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to take the needle and then take the needle to it. Isn't there something?
And it's now twice as thick as it was originally.
Well, yeah, there is that.
But it does work.
But you're pressing it together, and because this yarn's quite lofty when you squeeze it. Isn't there a thing with Tom Sawyer or something where he dresses up as a girl, but this woman discovers him? So the other thing is that you lick your fingers and then you make the end really pointy. And you do the same thing again. I'm just holding it in my fingers quite tight. And then I take the needle to it rather than the other way around. Yeah. So apparently she knew he was a boy because he tried to do it like that, which doesn't work.
It's a giveaway, isn't it?
It was a giveaway.
And he also put his knees, when he dropped something, he put his knees, he was wearing a skirt, but he put his knees together.
Well, it's probably a bit like you can tell the way that girls throw a ball or something. Yeah. And the answer is that it's because they were never taught how to do it. Because...
Well, it's not genetic.
Well, it might be for you, Kat. But... There we are now. I can't remember which direction I was going in. That means that I must have been nearly finished.
Tools in the studio. Small needle threaders.
What's a needle threader? I mean, I can understand what it might be, but...
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, they're a marvel, those
they
things.
Are fantastic. Yeah. So like this. You basically make the eye of the needle bigger. There's my needle. Where did I put my? Up there. I mean, this is an easy needle, but these are great because they do it for any kind of needle. So basically, you put this one through the needle. That is quite easy because that's that goes through here, and then you have a whole thing to put your thread through here, do this one here. It can be done in different ways. You basically just, and then you pull it over.
Okay, gotcha. I see. Right, so this is just fine wire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You can basically, you can even do that with your own fine wire. And obviously, it's quite handy to have it on this plastic thing.
Yeah.
But what happens if it? I usually also for really fine needles, really fine hose. And sometimes you have to put it so much and they come apart.
Right.
So they break extremely easily. So you can nice to have 20 of them.
You need a lot.
So hence the little box here.
Right. And where do you get a box of these?
So and so. Or probably also haberdashery twist.
Okay.
And they are, I mean, they're really handy, especially for small needles. So you have to do it again.
Okay.
Right, so I think I've nearly finished this.
It does look really nice.
They're interesting colours, aren't they?
They're nice.
Okay, so I'm just going to finish up there. And then I'm thread the ends in a minute. So I'm just going to untie my tourniquet. Ooh. So that's what it looks like. And it's a bit sort of lumpy, but this is what it looks like on the other side also. So what I will do, so I think that looks okay actually. So what I'm going to do is wet it and let it dry flat. Can you see how lumpy it is there? So, and then it'll all stretch out.
Yeah. I never thought of doing that. That's a good tip.
Well, you can also do it if you've got doing it not with a knitted thing, just with a steam iron, and you don't even have to push the iron on it. You just steam it, hold it above and steam, and it flattens it out. So now I'm just going to thread my ends in with my crochet hook.
Oh, Belle, get off there.
But you know, anybody that can knit stuff like this,
Beautiful.
it
May I have a
just
look at
seem-
them?
It's very easy,
seems to
isn't
me,
it? It's
you know,
nice. That's a
if
nice,
you-
lovely
if you
ganty.
can find a drop stitch anywhere, then that's
I wasn't going to look for
a surprise. I mean, she's in there with God, to be honest, in terms of mistakes.
But also the quality of the wool. It's just, it's amazing that it's.
I
I mean, I know you
There's
just
a
got
heck
them,
of a lot of wood.
but still.
It's a heck of a lot of work in these.
Yes.
They're beautifully knitted.
Yeah.
Yes. Somebody who does a lot of knitting who's done that. Beautiful tension, very even. Lovely. But you could make beautiful men's.
It's yes. I think I have most of what she made actually in terms of knitting.
Gosh.
Because this isn't the whole collection by any means. Yeah.
And have you given any thought to whether you're going to make it visible or invisible?
Well, I'd like to go. It depends who's looking, doesn't it? And precisely where the need is. So some of it, I don't think you could do it completely invisibly.
No.
It just would not be feasible. But, I mean, that's what I think. Maybe I would change my mind.
It depends who wears it and what you want to
And can you
show off when you wear it. I mean, who's looking at it can enjoy it or not as they choose. It's what you want to wear, isn't it?
Yes. I don't know. I mean, how do you buy wool? Colour, obviously, is just one factor. What are the other factors when you're trying to buy wool? What does one ask for? Or do you just take it to the shop and say, match that?
Yeah, if you're going to a yes.
But the problem is we don't have that many good wool shops, even outside the lockdown.
No,
There's actually not that many places where you can go, and because this is also a really nice quality wool that is, it's like a Shetland wool that's really that goes shiny over age, which is not all wools will do that. Some just wear.
Yeah.
And getting that, I would say today you would get online. You don't go to a shop and find it easily.
And then to match the colour online
Exactly.
is almost impossible.
Quite.
So you visibly mend it. You just go for something really
So you
bold and brash.
could
and
go
really
for orange.
exciting.
I'm not comfortable with that. Not comfortable with
but
it.
saying that, if you find a dark blue wool, you will probably easily find something that's very close. It won't maybe be exactly the same quality or same type of wool, but it will be so close that you won't notice it. So so if you say, where can I find that wool, that's one question, but where can I find wool I can darn wool and still make it look invisible? That's possible.
So what would look really beautiful on that is to have different blues that are almost the same. So you might have a slightly darker navy and a slightly brighter blue, and so you might have 3 or 4 different shades of blue which are almost the same, which is, to be fair, what you might end up with, especially if you order it online. And so you could kind of deliberately do it
already now, make that plan.
Choose to do it that way.
Choose to do it imperfectly.
Do it with intent, and then you can say it's beautiful and it's lovely and it's just what I want.
To stop it wearing out again
But
next time.
This is obviously redeemable in terms of what you've been showing. Is it worth doing? Or, I mean, they all go in these, as I say, were particularly the socks that
It's
one
not
was
going to
getting
take you
from
very long, though,
this
is
guy.
it? So I think you have to weigh up the time with the, and also on there, nobody's ever going to see it except you, so it doesn't matter. It's a good way to start, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's not like right on the front of your shirt, if you see what I mean.
It's the principle of not throwing them away.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that
The
idea.
rest of them are all wearable. There's no point in throwing them away.
Exactly.
Can I check in about my darning? So I've just done all one. There are a couple of different coloured threads. They're quite similar because they're sort of beigey browns, orangey browns. But when I'm going across, I've got a bit left. It's better to just cut the thread, is it, rather than start going the other way with it still uncut? Or doesn't it matter?
It doesn't matter. You can just if you like, or you can wiggle yourself into the place where you want to be. So you can little in and out stitches into where you want to start.
And it's like it's very regular. I've been really following all the kind of, like you said, the brick pattern and everything. So do I just you do exactly the same? You're just going up and down across them, but from quite wide still.
Yeah, so in the pattern that I did it like a cross, so that there were bits at both ends that it was like 2 stripes of stitches crossing each other. But what you can do is do it a complete square. So if you start at that corner, direction, you'll be doing a complete square rather than a cross. Do you see what I mean?
What do you mean about a cross? Because what do you mean? Wow, that's beautiful. That's like sort of feathers.
But you see, it's like you do, that's one direction.
Yeah.
And then you go in the other direction. But if you started at this corner going across, it would be a complete square.
Yeah. You don't necessarily need, that's what I was wondering, you don't need to be that far across. I don't necessarily need to be that far across, do I? Yeah.
So you could just wiggle along in that corner.
Yeah, thread through, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was trying to learn darning, so I thought, in fact, they didn't even really have holes in them. I actually took a pair of scissors to make a hole.
This is the book that we did where I work.
Repair, Make, Mend.
So this is a Japanese book that we've translated into English, and that's what I've been using today.
All right,